What's up, people? All right, really fun moment in time. I have been starving for connection to people at this time. I don't know if you guys feel the same way. And so today I am going to have a conversation with one of my favorite people who is a guru of mine, a radical teacher of mine, and somebody who has been really fun to know in many ways. And it's my boy, Dave Asprey, who's coming on today to talk about his new book, Fast This Way. Also answer all of my questions about intermittent fasting and everything else that goes along with this. Are you ready for Dave? Here he is. Hold on one second. Let me grab him. Bring it in, man. What's up?
Hey, Gabby.
Okay. You know why I'm so pumped in this moment? Because I am driven in this moment by my Bulletproof MCT oil, my ghee butter, and my coffee. I'm on day 7 of intermittent fasting. I've been DMing you and emailing you a bajillion questions. And today I can get them answered live in front of everybody that's watching. And more importantly, you can just have a social interaction with a friend because, man, I miss you people.
Yeah, right.
I miss you people. You know? It sucks.
It can be a bit lonely. How are you feeling, first of all?
Okay, I feel freaking amazing. I feel so good. I did not start doing the intermittent fasting. So just to introduce you, if anyone's been living under a rock and doesn't know Dave, he is the founder of Bulletproof Coffee and this movement of people mixing mixing their butter and their MCT oil in their coffee in the morning to support them in intermittent fasting, which I'm going to ask you all about so that you can break down. But why I started it in January was I've been doing some treatment, and then I gained 15 pounds because of the treatment, because the hormone treatment, which you're aware of. And it's okay because I actually needed to, and I feel good, and I look better. I actually look better. Yeah. And I've also been exercising a lot, so that muscle is there. It's all good. But I just was feeling very bloated and funky, and I would eat breakfast right in the morning, right when I woke up. And then I would be like, and the morning is my magic time when I write, when I create, and it's when my brain is the most optimized.
Right.
For me. I mean, that's not everybody, that's me. So it was kind of like, okay, Gabby, how can I hack this to the next level with the support of my guy, Dave? And I was like, okay, I want to lose the bloat. I want to beautifully eliminate in the morning, not to be gross, people, but let's be real. I want to, clean out. I want to rejuvenate my cells, which I want to hear from you about what's actually happening when I do this. And I also did want to lose a little bit of that extra weight. Not like a lot of it, actually. I think I've got a new baseline that I like. It definitely looks better on the face when you're 41.
Your face looks fantastic. Like,
let me tell you something.
Don't worry.
15 extra pounds, dude, really worked on my face. And I look back at some pictures of myself at the beginning of March last year, and I was like, whoa, like 100 pounds. I'm like 115 now. It's a lot better for me. So, but I wanted to reset. I wanted to clean house, and I also wanted to support my fertility. So I felt like there was this cell rejuvenation, high fat, which I know is really great for those follicles. And that was the choice. I feel really great. I have so much more energy. I actually haven't even broken my fast yet today, because normally I would do it at noon, and here we are. So if I start trying to eat the phone, let me know.
All right. Here's what's happening. And this is why I decided to write a book on fasting. People have lost 1 million pounds on the Bulletproof diet using intermittent fasting, but you don't have to do the whole diet. Just what you're doing there, saying, oh, I'm going to switch around. Normally you wake up in the morning and your brain's like, how much energy do I put into digesting the food you're about to eat? And then how do I deal with whatever's in the food? There's some energy, there's some nutrients, and there's some things that probably aren't good for you. All food has a mix of those 3 things. But when you're not doing any of that, the body's like, oh, all the energy that would have gone into chewing up the food in the gut, now it can go into creativity. And then your ketone levels rise a little bit. And there's a whole chapter in the book on women and fasting, specifically. Okay. Yep. And it shows, even if you just 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, have lunch instead of breakfast, that's enough to, over the course of the week, slowly raise levels of these ketones, these fat burning molecules. And when you do that, your brain gets more energy. So all of a
Mhm.
sudden, the brain has more energy because you're burning fat. You like how you're shaped because you're burning fat. But in the morning, you didn't eat anything that was bad for you because you didn't eat anything at all. And you didn't have to digest even things that were good for you. So you're kind of lit up right when you want to be. And for me, when I weighed 300 pounds, I was terrified of being hungry because I knew that if I didn't eat 6 times a day, I'd go into starvation mode, which would make me fat. It doesn't make sense, but that's what we all believed. And I knew that I would get hypoglycemia, right? So then
Hypoglycemia, yes.
I'd get hungry and I'd act like a jerk, right? And I didn't want to be a jerk.
Totally.
Like I was enough of a jerk without being hungry. So I was like really scared. Like I have to just like have a safety snack with me all the time.
Yep,
And oh my God, fasting gives you more energy, not less.
it does.
And like I wrote the whole book because I'm like, wait a minute. You mean I spend less money on breakfast? I spend less time on breakfast. I get more energy than having breakfast. I'm going to live longer. My metabolism's going to work better. My pants are going to get fit better. And it was less than what I currently do today to get into
Hmm.
it. That was why it was worth writing a book about. And
Hmm.
it's easy to say, oh, skip a meal. It's good for you. But that's not that easy, as you're finding out, right? You have to do it right or it doesn't work.
Correct. And for me, the bulletproof model of adding for me, I add ghee and MCT oil, is it's like I start to crave it. That's a meal for me, and
Yeah,
it's also really good for me right now because I need the high fat. So
you really do.
I feel like if I were just like starving myself until noon, then I would be very bitchy, and I actually wouldn't be able to focus and get the work done that I like to get done in the morning. So having that sustainable fat guiding me has been really helpful.
Well, you're pretty dialed in on how you feel, right? I mean, look at who you are. So you're picking that up intuitively. And a lot of people don't get that at first. Some people are saying, oh, you can only have water during a fast, because that's what a mouse had in a fast in the 1970s. So I'm still going to go with that. But the reality is that as long as you're not having sugar and you're not having protein, you can have a little fat. And there's 10 years and 1 million pounds lost doing this. We know that it works. And I've interviewed multiple experts. So one of the 3 big hacks that are in my brand new book is, yes, you can do a little grass-fed butter or ghee and the MCT oil. And the reason you do it, Gabby, is because you're a high energy person and you have a high
Yep.
energy life. Okay, so am I. Now, you could go on just water or just coffee or whatever, but you're not going to have the same morning. So how mean is it to say, oh, you're working from home right now, maybe you have a kid on each arm, you're trying to focus on your Zoom, and you got all sorts of stuff going on, oh, and you're supposed to fast. And that's a setup for failure and cravings and acting like a jerk. Or you say, how do I do a working fast where my metabolism gets fixed, but I just don't even think about food one time? Right? And I'm full of energy. And then if I want to go do a spiritual oriented fast, that's a part of fasting that's been missing too. And you can still do that, but don't try to do a spiritual fast where I'm going to face my cravings and I'm going to face my boss and I'm going to face my kids and my bills and everything else all at the same time. You either go deep on a fast and rest and reflect and reset and journal, or you say, I'm just going to fast because it was what was easiest and best and made me feel the most awesome. And I got younger and healthier as a result, but I didn't have to act like a jerk and I didn't have to use my willpower. And that's what's
Yep.
been missing from our whole conversation around fasting is like willpower. You don't have to use willpower.
Totally. You don't need willpower when you're doing a bulletproof coffee fast, for
Not at
sure.
all.
No, you don't, because look, I've been I stop eating actually typically at 7, and then I start breaking my fast between 11 and 12. Today I haven't
Yeah.
broken my fast yet. So as soon as we get off, I'll be like ready to go. And I wanted to ask some specific questions about the bulletproof fast, and then I want you to just dive in about the book and what we need to know
Okay,
about
let's
the
do
book.
it.
But so these are my selfish questions. These are the Gabby couldn't get Dave on. Actually, I can always get Dave. You're like me. You respond like that. I
I
don't
do
know
my
what it is
best.
about people like us. Like we are ready to reply. Like people have always been like, "How do you get back to people so quickly?" I'm like, I don't know. So
It's wanting to help is what it is, Gabby. You
it
don't do
is.
that.
It
You
is.
help people, right?
And being excited about what it is that people are asking you about is really easy too.
Yeah.
So here's what my question is. So you're doing the bulletproof fasting and you break your fast at noon. First question, what's the best kind of food to break your fast with?
Definitely bacon. I'm just kidding.
Bacon.
It's whatever you like to eat. These are
Okay.
these are intermittent fasts.
Right.
These are not, multi-day water fasting, at which point you kind of come back in gently. So if you've been fasting for 5 days, the answer is different. But really, you want to eat something that's going to leave you full. And here's what's also not talked about in the world of fasting. What you eat in the meals before you start an intermittent fast will control whether you have cravings or not. So eat something so that when you're done eating, you won't even think about food for 4 hours.
Can I show you what I'm eating?
Yes.
Stay right there.
I
Don't go
love
anywhere,
that.
Dave.
Okay.
Hold on. This is my fast. This is what I break my fast with. I might even take a bite while we're talking. Okay, ready? Organic yogurt
Nice.
with a powder, like a protein powder mixed in, chia seeds, Brazil nuts, blueberries and raspberries,
All right.
and goji berries.
Now, I like some of it. I don't like some of it.
What don't you like?
Now, about a third of people listening to this are sensitive to the nightshade family. And this is the deadly nightshades. It turns out goji berries are an unknown member of that thing. So a third of people who eat goji berries are going to get inflamed from them. And the other ones will probably be fine. So this is the thing. It's not that it's bad. It's not that it's good. It's that you got to watch out because there are some suspect foods in there.
Okay.
And chia seeds can be really rough on the gut unless you've soaked them. So were they soaked or were they?
Oh, no, they have not been soaked. So, but if you soak them, wouldn't they be like gummy at the end? Like, wouldn't they?
They get slimy when you soak them, right?
Okay, but you want me
Are
to
they
soak my
ground?
chia seeds?
Are they ground or are they whole?
Whole.
Yeah, they can be a little rough on the gut when they're whole and unsoaked. Most seeds are covered in stuff to keep animals like us from eating them. So soaking them is better, but then you have to blend them into something, right?
Okay.
And chia is way better than flax, so you're still doing all right. But here's the big question for you. And the Brazil nuts. They probably should be stored in the fridge. Too many Brazil nuts can overload selenium, and they also are very often moldy. So it should be like a Brazil nut, and it should be a really good smelling, tasting Brazil nut. Because
I was
half
worrying
the time,
about that.
yeah,
That I might be having too many Brazil nuts.
you shouldn't eat more than one a day.
I've got like a bunch in there.
Maybe two. And the other thing is they soak up selenium, but they soak up every other metal in the soil. So Brazil nuts are a real double-edged sword because they're likely to be moldy. If you smell it and it smells a little bit musty, like just don't even touch it.
Put them in the fridge.
And it could be a cause of cravings. So, but here's the thing, you'll know you nailed the meal for you. And guys, it's not like it's all the same for all of us. In fact, when you get fast this way, there's a whole fasting roadmap where it's like, these foods are really good foods for everyone. These foods are suspect, maybe good, maybe bad. And these foods are always bad for you. So you can, that's a suspect one. If you're hungry in 2 hours, something in there pushed a button for you. Okay. But if you're totally good to go for a while, then you did it right. The other thing you could do, because you're working on intermittent fasting and ketones, you can add a little bit, like a couple teaspoons of the Bulletproof MCT oil directly to the yogurt and stir it in. Okay. You can add the prebiotic fiber. That's the other big fasting hack from the book. This feeds your good gut bacteria and it makes you stupidly full. You can add that into yogurt and stir it in, and you can add collagen protein into yogurt and stir it in. So when my kids have yogurt in the morning, they take sheep yogurt, grass-fed sheep's yogurt, and then they'll put collagen, they'll put MCT, and then they do blueberries. And quite often, any kind of nuts, cashews are particularly good because they have the good
saturated. Aren't cashews kind of moldy though?
No.
You're a cashew dude, and I was always wondering about this because you got a lot of cashews in your world, in your bars and all that. So what's the deal with cashews? Cashews
are not moldy because they come in this big heavy shell, and you have to steam them to even get them out of the shell. So they tend to be one of the lower mold. It's actually a legume, not a nut. And the reason I like them is they have a very high percentage of stable fats, as opposed to something like an almond, where almonds actually cause problems for huge numbers of people who don't even know it. So I was like, how do I compose something where I'm going to eat it and it's going to help my body build healthy cell membranes, which means I can make energy better. And the difference is really profound. So I think I like what you're doing in your breakfast, or in your lunch there. Just don't overdo the Brazil nuts. I think you're going to nail it.
I got to tell you, I already kind of sensed that. I knew that because too much selenium can do the opposite of what you want, the opposite effect, right? So I gotta work that out. Okay. If I have selenium like in my prenatal or something, is a Brazil nut too much or just one is okay?
Probably not. One Brazil nut
Okay.
is going to be fine. There's also
Okay.
different forms. There's sodium selenate. There's selenomethionine. So there's different forms, and it's okay to get some from nature and some from supplements. I'm glad you're taking a prenatal. That's one of the best things you can do when you're pregnant. Is a high quality prenatal.
Is there one that you recommend?
I'd have to ask my wife.
Ask your
Um,
wife. Yeah. You gotta
okay,
let
she
me
has her
know.
fertility consulting practice, so she's up on the current best brands. And it's been a little while since I wrote the fertility book, so I wouldn't want to steer you wrong, but I'll get you a really good one.
The Better Baby book, I read that.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm like a super fan, Dave. Okay.
Oh, Gabby, that's actually an honor. Do you know that? Like, thank you. Anytime someone takes the time to read one of my books, I'm like, it better be worth your time. So thanks.
Dude,
But I'll get you the name.
you're my guy. Okay, now here's another question. You don't have to be keto to be doing the intermittent fasting with
No,
Bulletproof.
it's especially for women. Like, it makes me mad because the Bulletproof Diet book, I'm like, here's why intermittent fasting matters. Here's why keto matters. And here's the mistakes I made. And they're in my first big book. And then people go, oh, keto, good. And then you become these keto bros. And when women go keto without having carbs, without cycling in and out, it breaks women's metabolisms. And I've seen it over and over. So no, you don't have to be keto. You can be keto for a week or a few days, but then like have some gluten-free pancakes already. And
Right.
especially for fertility, for your hormones, especially on the time of your cycle, don't have sugar, don't have corn syrup, don't have deep fried Twinkies or whatever, but you can have carbs, sweet potatoes, white rice, stuff like that. And you're going to,
Okay.
even the fruit that's in the blueberries, right? That's going to make you feel better. So don't be afraid of carbs, but don't live on them either, right?
Right. Now, I have like one guilty pleasure these days.
What is
It's,
it?
I've been sober almost 15 and a half years, right? So I don't have sugar in my diet. I'm like really boring, man. But I like Banza pasta. And I feel like you're going to
What's
say
in it?
hell. It's chickpeas. And I think you don't like chickpeas, right?
Gross. Ew.
You're killing me. All right,
Here's the real truth about chickpeas. It might be okay for you. So I'm saying gross just because, like, come on. I
The
mean, if you can eat
best.
pasta, like, you could eat some better pasta. But all right, in Fast This Way, there's 5 big categories of plant toxins that make you hungry,
That's why I
right?
asked.
And so, like, don't eat stuff that makes you want to eat more because that's not doing it right. And
Right.
remember, every food, calories are good for you. That's what powers life. They're energy. Calories measure your body's ability to make heat from food. You want that. Okay. Then you have nutrients, which is how many vitamins are in there. And then you have anti-nutrients, which are how many bad things. And every food has some of each of those 3. And
Okay.
when you eat foods that are higher in those anti-nutrients, they make you more hungry. So chickpeas, for huge numbers of people, they poke holes in their gut lining. They're high in lectins, which is one of the 5 categories that I teach you about in Fast This Way. So if you eat those and you eat maybe just the pasta with a little something else, and afterwards, like, man, I feel so full. I'm so satisfied. I woke up the next morning. I wasn't bloated. My joints didn't hurt. I slept well. I don't have dark circles on my eyes, et cetera, et cetera. Like, okay,
Right.
I got this. It actually works for me. There are people, especially people of Middle Eastern descent, or areas where you've been eating chickpeas for thousands of years where it works, but
Right.
a huge number of people, it just shreds their gut, and then they wonder why they're hungry and tired all the time.
Okay.
So chickpeas are a very high risk thing, but they might work for you, and the ones in pasta are highly processed that might be better for you. So if you just feel like a great golden goddess after you eat them, enjoy the pasta. But for a
Well, what
lot of people,
pasta do
man,
you
not
eat?
good.
What gluten-free pasta do you eat?
I don't. I would eat a rice-based pasta, but
A
I
rice
don't usually do it.
You don't
What
do
I
it.
like What I like to is when you cook rice, if you add the MCT oil or coconut oil, if you like coconut flavored rice, as you're cooking it, it makes a lot of resistant starch that feeds your good gut bacteria. So I'd rather have rice cooked that way, or my favorite is Japanese rice called mochi, where you cook the rice like that and then you pound it, like normally traditionally with wooden mallets, but I have a machine that does them. And then it's like the stuff that go around ice cream. So that's like a neat little hack, but I'm also kind of picky that way. But if it's going to be pasta, rice pasta.
But you have like endless hours in your day to like hack shit.
No, I don't. Are you kidding me?
Well, I'm
The
actually
life of
suggesting
an
that you have endless
author podcaster.
hours. You have endless inspiration that
There you
actually
go.
expands time for you, which I know. You don't have to even
I hack my time. You're totally right. Look, I do anything it takes to have more energy because I had chronic fatigue syndrome. I was so fat and I just didn't have, I felt like the accelerator was all the way to the floor and I was slowing down. I just never want to go back. So if I get something
Totally.
that tastes amazing, gives me a food high, not like a, MSG sugar high, but just like I'm so good right now. I love how I feel. That's how you eat after a fast. So I'm willing to spend extra time on that. And I live on a small
Totally.
organic farm for a reason because we get to do it right.
Totally. Do you have book cover in front of you? Can you show the
I
cover of the
do.
book? All right. Fast This Way,
Fast
by the
this
way, is
way.
like such a killer title, dude. Like you
Oh,
nail it
thank
with the
you.
marketing. It's so good. So Fast This Way, what it is, okay, people can pre-order it right now. I want every single person watching us right now to
It
pre-order
ships
this
like in a
book.
week. Right.
It's out in a week. It's out next
Yeah.
Tuesday.
Yes.
Okay.
Order now. It'll arrive right when it's supposed to.
Very appropriate timing to be launching. And what would you say are okay, so one thing I personally want to know, and then I'm going to ask you about the book, more specifics about the book, but in the book, when you talked about chickpeas, I remember seeing a post that you posted about it, and then it's in the book. What were the other foods that are no bueno?
Kale.
Right.
Kale is a
Why?
major problem. I've been saying this for 10 years. Okay, I was a raw vegan. Okay, I lost weight as a raw vegan.
Right.
And I gave myself autoimmune conditions as a raw vegan. And I broke teeth as a raw vegan. And this happens a lot. And then I switched to being a regular vegan. But what happens is it changes the cell membranes in your body so you make less energy over time. You can handle it when you're young. And the problem is with kale is that it's full of these plant defense systems called oxalates. And this is another major driver of cravings. Raw spinach and kale are very high in this, and it goes into the body. It finds calcium, and there's like 10,000 times more calcium outside your cells than inside. And when calcium hits oxalic acid, it forms tiny needle-like crystals that can get stuck in your joints. It's a common cause of kidney stones now. It's even been tied to autism in a couple early studies, and it's tied to
Yeah.
something called vulvodynia, where the crystals form in your vulva, and then you can't even wear underwear, much less do anything else recreational or reproductive. So, oh, and it's also the number one plant that sucks a toxic metal called thallium out of the air, and we replace lead in gasoline with thallium, which is 1,000 times more toxic than lead. So, why are we eating kale salads? No one listening has ever eaten a giant kale salad and then a half hour later said, I'm so full. Because it doesn't work like that. You'll always be hungry after you eat kale. And like, guys, yes, it has vitamin K1. Sorry, your body needs vitamin K2. It's not a really good food. I believed it. I had giant bowls of kale. I would like put kale on my face to make my skin better. Okay, not really that last part. But the rest of it, yes. So when you look at the science though, let's eat so that when we start a fast, we're like, I didn't think about food. Because Gabby, one of the studies in the book, 15% of the thoughts each of us has every day is about what's for lunch,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, we have to get that 15% back and be like, what could I do with this time that's better? I could take care of my family. I could take care of my community. I could literally just like take a shower. Like anything is better than just thinking about tacos all day. So you've
Mm-hmm.
got to eat right to then do your fast. And if you get hungry during the fast, knowing there's three things you can do, instead of saying, I'm just going to lean in and I'm going to muscle through it. Like, no, muscle through your day, not your fast. It's so
Right.
much easier just to be kind and nice to yourself and say, I want my metabolism to work. I don't want to suffer along the way. Oh, now I have to buy smaller pants. And having lost 100 pounds, I mean, I've done it the hard way. This is much easier.
Now, what are the other things that would make a fast, or let's call it intermittent fast to start?
Yeah,
Just because you talk about different types of fasting,
sure.
but what would make that intermittent fasting easier on one, asking for a friend?
Well, intermittent fasting, here's the first step to it. This sounds kind of intense. It starts at 12 hours. Okay, that's the
Right.
very
I'm doing
tiny
12, dude.
entrance.
I'm at 12.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
No, no, no,
and
no. I'm at like 16. What am
I was
I
gonna
at?
say you should be at 16, yeah.
I'm at 16. I didn't mean 12. I'm
Yeah,
at
12 is
16.
simple. Here's why.
12 is too easy. I'm at 16.
Have your dinner a little bit earlier. If you could have dinner at 6 instead of 7, it's gonna help a lot. But let's say you eat dinner at 6. You get 4 hours until bedtime, and then you sleep for 8 hours, and those numbers are variable for people, but that's 12 hours. You wake up, you've already gone 12 hours just because you had an early dinner and you didn't eat after dinner. Like, how hard was that? And then you wake up and you go, well, I guess I could wait a few hours before I eat. and now you've hit 14, now you've hit 16. You wait till noon, you're always going to do 14 or 16 hours. It's that easy. So all you're doing is skipping breakfast, but in reality, you just went 16 hours without eating, which is a really common, in fact, it's the most common window of fasting. And then when you're done with that, like, okay, now I get to eat, and I get to eat as much as I want, right? Because you're eating a full day's worth of calories in 8 hours. So then you have lunch and you have dinner. And if you need to snack between them, you can. But honestly, if you eat lunch right, you should be totally full until dinner.
Okay.
And if you want to be a real boss about it, have a bigger lunch and a smaller dinner. And that'll give you even more return on your fasting.
Big boss. And no chickpeas or kale. Okay.
Unless chickpeas really work for you. But here's the thinking behind this, Gabby. And I want everyone listening to this to understand. The idea of the fast is to make it as easy as possible on you. Okay? Like, set yourself up for success. And most of the mindset around fasting is like, well, you'll just have to just deal with it. No, I don't want you to deal with it. I want you to deal with other things. And the 3 fasting hacks are black coffee, which makes fast way better. And because coffee doubles the amount of ketones your body makes in the morning. So just a couple small cups of coffee is all it takes. No sugar, no protein. And then level 2, bulletproof coffee, MCT oil and a little bit of butter. It doesn't have to be a lot. And that makes it easier for your body to burn fat. And level 3, add soluble prebiotic fiber in. And when you do that, no one on earth has ever been hungry after they do that.
Wait, where's the prebiotic fiber? I need the prebiotic fiber for my.
You have to read the book. No, I'm kidding.
No, I have that book.
I'm teasing you.
I
I sent you the fiber.
PDF.
It's Inner Fuel.
PDF.
I know, I'm teasing. I sent you the PDF.
And guess what? I have the audiobook.
Oh, you got it already?
No, I don't know if it's there. I ordered it this morning with my one click because I had a point and I used my point on you. And I have to check and see if it's actually in there. It's likely not until next Tuesday.
On the 19th, you'll get it. This is my best read ever for a book. I took voice lessons from Roger Love. This is the guy who taught.
You did the read. It's no joke to read a book. Reading it, people are like,
hard.
You know, oh my God, it's so hard. When I first read my second book was the first book I ever read, Spirit Junkie. And when I sat down to read that book, I saw the guys in the control room and they were like, oh, fuck. Like, I was so bad at it. I've gotten better as the years have gone on. So there's so much to say. Let me just make one PSA for those out there who love kale. I saw some girl and she's like, I am concerned. Why not kale? One girl said she's concerned about no spinach and kale. Listen, people. Dave has done his research, but at the end of the day, you people make your own decisions. You make your own decisions. You do what's good for you. But Dave's got a lot of insight and he's done a lot of research. And if you're like intrigued, read the book. Read the book.
Thank you for saying that, Gabby. And here's the deal. I'm not going to judge you if you want to go have a kale spinach salad. I will ask you, though, the next morning, do your feet hurt? This is a really common thing. And let's look at your kidney function, especially if you do it all the time. One of the producers on the documentary I did about toxic mold, 2 kale salads a day, she gets kidney stones made out of oxalic acid right in the middle of filming the documentary. It's called Moldy, moldymovie.com. It's a free thing. I'm not trying to sell anything to you guys. If you want to learn about toxic mold, my gift. And this happens very commonly. One of my current employees, like, Dave, I've decided to eat clean. I'm going to lose a little bit of weight. So I'm eating all this raw spinach and my feet hurt. I can barely walk. And that's what it was. So the idea that you believe it's healthy for you, it may be. But if things are working perfectly and you're doing it, all right, great, enjoy. But just understand, all foods have pros and cons, and we only talk about the pros in common press. And what you want to understand is what's the balance between them, because the cons are bigger for some people than others. So it's okay to love raw spinach. I actually think it tastes good, but I always notice I get tartar buildup on the back of my teeth when I eat raw spinach.
Me too. Mm-hmm.
That's oxalic acid. It actually does that. It affects kidney function. So you don't have to do it. Oh, the fiber question. I never answered it. People are asking here.
Yeah, prebiotics.
Bulletproof Inner Fuel is the one that I make, and for Bulletproof, and it is the one that I use. Obviously, it's got 3 different kinds of fiber, and my job is not to get you guys to all buy Bulletproof coffee. Bulletproof is doing very well.
Many people are buying Bulletproof. You're good.
Exactly.
I'm not trying to sell you anything.
Thank you. Here's what's in it. There's something called acacia gum, something called larch arabinogalactin, and these are all plant saps that feed healthy gut bacteria, and it's just a flavorless powder. And there's one other one in there as well, and I write about it in the book. It's hydrolyzed guar gum, which means we break it down with enzymes. So these are all clinically studied to raise good gut bacteria. And what's cool is you put this fiber into water or coffee or whatever, and then you drink it, it suppresses hunger. In fact, it does it in many studies. It makes you live longer in dozens of studies, not the specific bulletproof one, but just soluble fiber. Most people don't get enough. And if you do get it, you're probably eating a whole bunch of whole grains that have a lot of other anti-nutrients in them. So this is a clean source of just the good stuff. And when you do that during a fast, your good gut bacteria stay healthy. They make more of the stuff your body needs, but your insulin levels don't change at all. Your protein digestion doesn't change. So now you didn't think about food, and you got better digestion, and you didn't get constipated, which is a major issue for a lot of people when they try to do keto or they try to do fasting. So it keeps the gut healthy. You're never hungry. And it's you're never hungry is the big headline. So fasting, we have more energy and less hunger than when you eat breakfast. Like, wait, I spent less money on breakfast. I spent less time on breakfast. I spent less attention on breakfast, and I had more energy all morning long. If the book can do that for you, just knowing how to do it right, you get way more out of your day. And you're seeing it now. You're like on day 9 and you're loving your life.
Okay, so more questions specifically though, because so prebiotic fiber will not break your fast, obviously, because you're adding it to your bulletproof. Why won't that break the fast?
Well, when you're fasting, you're turning on something called autophagy, which is when your body's protein digestion mechanisms break down old gunk in your cells instead of breaking down eggs in the morning. So when that happens, if you eat protein, you basically stop fixing your body and start breaking down the protein you ate.
Right.
Well, prebiotic fiber, no protein.
Right.
And if you eat carbs, your body says, oh, here's some insulin. And when insulin goes up, that interferes with autophagy and with the benefits of fasting. But this interesting type of fiber, since your body cannot digest it, it sees it, goes, oh well, I'll pass it on. And the little gut bacteria are like, woohoo. But when they eat it, they turn it into something called butyric acid or short chain fatty acid. So when you eat a fiber, it turns into a really rare kind of fat that's really good for you and actually helps with ketosis.
Okay.
So it makes a big difference though, because for me, all I want to do is get all the benefits of fasting, and I just don't want to think about food.
Okay.
And I did a 3-day fast. Like 3 weeks ago, I was doing a 72-hour fast, 3 full days, and I had 6 podcast interviews or 6 interviews like this every day. And I totally didn't even think about food. I was just in the zone the whole time. It's really hard to do that if you're just having water and you're like sitting on a couch rocking and journaling about your feelings, which is really good to do, but like those are different states, and you can use fasting to be high performance or fasting to have energy to go deep. And the book is about both. We haven't even talked about the fact that the arc through the book, I fasted in a cave for 4 days because I was afraid of being lonely, and I was afraid of acting like a jerk when I was hungry, and I was afraid of just being hungry. So I'm like, well, put me in a cave with no one around for 10 miles for 4 days and let's see what happens. And I share the spiritual side of this. And Gabby, what I'm doing that I think your community will love is I'm teaching the book. So for the first time ever, it's my 7th book. I'm spending 2 full weeks teaching people every day, like with more than 10,000 people. We're going to do intermittent fasting with the hacks, without the hacks. But the final 1 or 2 days is a spiritual fast. So going from let's take it easy on ourselves, let's get the energy, let's get the benefits, let's learn what foods work and what don't. And then we're going to do the spiritual thing with 10,000 people. And it's free. It's just a gift. You read the book, I'm just going to do it for you. I'm not trying to sell you anything. I just want people to have this knowledge because we're nicer to each other when we're not hungry.
Also, when you pre-order the book, I did this today, you're sending us some probiotics or you're sending us like enzymes?
There's a special right now, yeah, with my friends at Bioptimizers. So for the first 3,000 people who do that special, and I think that's probably on my Instagram page, or actually go to fastthisway.com, you got some. When you fast, check this out. Okay, we talked about autophagy. Now, you're looking at, okay, how does my skin look? You're looking at like, how do I feel? Well, if you take external enzymes, things that help to break down protein, when you're not eating, your body's like, hey, wait a minute, what do I do with all these enzymes? And it breaks down old scar tissue and it speeds up regeneration. So I've been taking enzymes on an empty stomach for a long time because they keep you young.
You know, Joe Dispenza told me one time that we were speaking at a Hay House event and he gave me this enzyme that he swears by, but he said take the enzymes on an empty stomach because the bugs, like all the bad microbiome, like will flee in the morning. He's like, he's seen it somehow, I don't know, on some microscope, all the little big, the funky bugs leaving when you've taken that in the morning early on. Okay?
When you take the enzymes?
On an empty stomach, yeah.
Yeah, it definitely can break down bad stuff in the gut because the enzymes will go for any sort of protein. So yeah, you can see changes.
Okay.
And people are asking about that. Fastthisway.com. If you just order, just send your receipt in on Fast
Here,
This
did
Way
you
and we'll take
post it?
care of
I'm
it.
gonna put okay, I'm gonna just pin it from this
Oh,
person that
thank you.
posted oh no, it's fastthisway.com. If somebody
Correct.
posts it, I will pin it. Okay, so here's one or two more final questions because I'm selfish and I have them. One woman asked, can you do intermittent fasting when you're breastfeeding? And I want to know about breastfeeding, but I also want to know about pregnant because
Okay. Thank you. In fact, this is in all caps in the book. You do not need to fast when you are pregnant. It is not good for you, but you can skip breakfast if you're not hungry. So a lot of times people are getting nausea, especially in the first trimester. So then what you want to be able to do is say, if I just don't feel like eating right now, I'll eat later and just give yourself permission to do that, but don't force yourself to fast. And when you're breastfeeding, it is really not a good idea to fast
gotta
for long
eat,
periods of time. You can do
eat,
12 hours if you want to, but don't go beyond that. You need to be eating a lot of fats, and it needs to
eat.
not be corn oil and soybean oil. It needs to be coconut oil, egg yolks, grass-fed animals, grass-fed butter, stuff like that. And when you do that, you can make enough of this. Funny enough, up to 17% of the fat in breast milk is the same kind of fat that's in brain octane oil. Your breast milk is largely saturated. And if you're trying to turn corn oil into breast milk, you're not going to do it right. So eat highly nutritious, fatty, creamy, delicious stuff, and you're going to make better breast milk that will make a baby with a bigger brain and a better immune system. So it's
And you
really
can get all
important.
that.
Don't starve yourself. Yeah.
You got to eat a lot when you're breastfeeding.
Yes, you do.
It's
It's
the
like
most
working out
important
every
thing.
day.
But also, you can't not. You're so damn hungry. So the other thing I also want to point out is this is one thing about prebiotics in an area where I do feel like I have a lot of knowledge, which is SIBO. If anyone has been diagnosed with SIBO, prebiotics are a no-no because they feed the gut.
Correct.
Okay,
I used to have
so
SIBO as well. Yeah.
some people who may not have unresolved gut issues, get a SIBO test, find out. I wrote a gut blog about it. I'll share
Yeah.
it elsewhere. And that's important. Then there was another thing I wanted to say as it related to kale. Some people are asking about hair loss. I was losing my hair this time last year,
Yeah.
and it was related to my hormones, of course, and my thyroid. So get your thyroid checked, and supposedly raw kale affects it. My friend Aviva Ram said, don't worry about steamed kale or whatever, but we all have different stories here. And
Raw brassicas probably do slightly lower thyroid in the amounts we eat them, and that's very it's very controversial because the raw vegans, like the way I used to be, they really don't like that. So, but there's at least enough evidence there's some suppression. But the bigger thing is with fasting in women is that step one, if you over fast, like, oh, I feel good when I fast, I'll just do it forever. Well, that's called starvation. So step one is my sleep quality goes down a lot, usually about 4 to 6 weeks for women. That's when you're like, wait, I wake up and I feel hungover. Step two, my cycle just got irregular. Step
yep,
three, my hair gets thin. And this is
yep.
signs of over keto, over fasting, or over vegan. All three will
And
do the same thing.
also dysbiosis, because
Yeah.
you may be eating the way you normally eat, but you're losing your hair and you're not sleeping well and you're anxious. That is another sign that you have a gut issue. And yeah,
People are, there's a question here. It's not probiotics that feed SIBO, it's
it's prebiotics.
prebiotics.
But
These are
also
the food for
probiotics, when
probiotics.
you are coming off of the SIBO protocol, if you end up doing medication, probiotics will feed it as well. I kicked SIBO. I believe I am a guru in SIBO. I'm just kidding, but I'm not proud of that because I'm not proud. I am actually proud of that. But the most important way to kick any gut condition is to regulate your nervous system. And Dave and I can do an entire other conversation
Oh,
about
yeah.
that.
We
Because
should.
other people are asking about candida and SIBO. And the bottom line is when you have these gut conditions is because of typically an inflammatory internal condition up here, right? So this is where I've been listening to a lot of Andrew Huberman stuff. Dude, are you
Oh, he
friends
was
with
on
that
my
guy?
show a long time ago. He's really solid. Yeah.
He is legit. That guy is so smart. But when you start to really understand the nervous system, and this is a conversation, Dave, that hopefully I can have another time on my future conversations here or elsewhere. It's if these fasting techniques that Dave's talking about not only will support your body, but also support your mood, support your anxiety levels, and support your nervous system. So that's the most important thing here. You could do all the perfect fasting and all the perfect diet, but still have an over anxious nervous system because of unresolved PTSD or unresolved issues with relationships, and none
Thanks
of
for
this will
saying
work.
that. I had PTSD around hunger. I had PTSD around loneliness, where literally I'm terrified of it, not consciously and all that. And wow, you start digging in on that. There is such a thing as emotional eating, and there is such a thing as fear, and it affects the gut, affects the vagal nerve. And man, I'm seeing so many good questions here. I feel like we could answer these questions for hours. Guys, I'm Dave.Asprey on Instagram. I answer a lot of these questions just with my regular posts. If you like this, please follow me there. I answer a lot of questions as well, and I just I want to help. The same energy as Gabby, where it's just about doing the right thing and sharing the most important knowledge. And Gabby just dropped a huge knowledge bomb there around like the emotional side, the emotional trauma affecting the gut. But imagine this: you have learned, not consciously, but in your meat, that fasting is dangerous. If you're hungry, it's not safe. And then you're saying, oh, I'm going to go to work this morning and I'm going to be hungry because I'm intermittent fasting. It's really hard to do that. And if instead you say, okay, how do I turn off the hunger so I can intermittent fast, and I'll deal with my trauma as I deal with my trauma when I decide to focus on it, where you sort of have these two paths: working fast, spiritual fast. And you just don't have to face it right now, but you do have to face the fact that your metabolism is broken because you can't really burn fat for fuel, and you wanted to be resilient, you wanted to be high energy. Those are different than the emotional stuff. But if there's one thing I've learned in my path, if you can get your physical energy higher by fixing your metabolism, then your spirit energy goes through the roof because you have the energy it takes to do the work to get to another level. And like you're such a good example of that, Gabby. The way you've
it all
done
goes
your
hand in
things.
hand. The one last thing I want to say, and I want you to speak to this, is I've kept you for 40 minutes, 42 minutes. I'm going to let you go, but this is it. So, some of my followers are women and men who may struggle with eating disorders, particularly bulimia or anorexia. And so sometimes if that is a disorder that you're struggling with, fasting can be absolutely triggering. And I want to just call that out.
Yep.
It doesn't mean that you can't read Dave's other books or you can't read this book, but I just want to really hold space for that person, because people who have disordered eating at times can use some of these practices in ways that may trigger them. And so I just want to call that out, and I would love to hear your voice on that as well.
There's also something called orthorexia, which is fear of not eating perfect food, which is a sister to those other two, or a brother to those other two eating disorders. And what you want to be able to do is reach a place of peace around food, where you don't have judgment if you decide I'm going to eat. You don't even judge yourself if you decide to eat something that you know wasn't perfect, because it doesn't have to be perfect. But what you want to do is eat stuff that's a little bit better than before, and eat stuff that you know is compatible with your system, and to eat it with joy and with gratitude. And to be able to say, I'm hungry right now, instead of I'm in a place of craving right now. And the better you fix your diet, the easier it is to do the work to address addiction, to address trauma. And I've had lots of PTSD. I've done all sorts of stuff. I've been very open about my path on that. But when I was really heavy and really tired, and I had the accelerator all the way to the floor, I couldn't have dealt with any eating disorder or any trauma, because I was drained. And so what I want you to do is learn how to get undrained.
Right.
And I would say, if you have an eating disorder, read the Bulletproof Diet. That's going to tell you, here's how to eat to get your energy back. Because when energy comes back, when you show up at your therapist's office to do the work that you need to do, you're going to be able to pay attention. Your brain will work. So that'd be my biggest advice: is nutrition. Nourishing yourself is an intimate act, and just that self-care is so important.
Nourishing yourself is an intimate act. I love you, man.
I love you, Gabby.
Thank you for your wisdom today. I look forward to many more conversations and cryo chambers and saunas in our future. I adore you.
Yes.
Everyone go pre-order. Go to fastestway.com, pre-order Dave's book. Let's get this book out there to those who need it. And God bless you. I love you. Have a good day, baby. Bye, everybody.